Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is on the first of 4 sections from the Online Course Design Rubric put out by the Online Education Initiative, the OEI. Section A, presenting your course content online. My name is Sean Valcarcel. I am one of 3 instructional designers on our team with the CVC OEI. Helen Graves is here helping me out, co-piloting with me, and Cheryl Chapman is also the other instructional designer. Later on in the course, later on in the webinar, we'll talk about this series and the next webinars that will be presented. So look out for that. All right, just some quick guidelines on using Zoom. You do have the chat function, so if you find the Zoom menu in your Zoom window, you'll see that. You can click on there and you can chat your questions and comments. Okay, you also have access to closed captions. You simply click on the CC button. If you happen to not see any of these items on your menu, you'll see a More button with 3 dots that you can click, and you'll see more of those items.
Sean, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you do me a favor and make Cheryl a co-host so she can help me with back-end stuff?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I apologize for not thinking of it sooner.
Wave your magic wand.
Here you go. All right, you got it? All right, awesome. And again, Cheryl and Helen, they are helping me out big time to help answer all your questions the best we can. Today we're looking at Section A. The course design rubric itself, it's sort of twofold, or maybe think of it as 2 sides of the same coin. It does offer guidance for instructors who are building your online courses. At the same time, if you are part of a peer online course review team locally, and you are in charge of reviewing other instructors' courses and giving them good feedback, it also provides the criteria that can help with quality course design so that everyone knows, is on the same page, so to speak, with what makes a good quality online course design. Also, please note that the updated rubric, which when we mean by updates is we have recently improved the language, some minor adjustments that will help to clarify what each of the elements in the different sections refers to with course design. And you can find that on our website, onlinenetworkofelducators.org. And we will have links to that rubric, so you can access that, download it as needed.
It's in the chat.
Thank you. So there are 14 elements in Section A. It is the largest of sections A through D, and each are grouped in a way that makes sense. So we'll be looking basically at these 14 elements in 4 chunks. So the first part is dealing with the unit objectives and how it relates to the course. The next items deals with content presentation and how you use the tools available in Canvas as your course management system, or you may have also heard of it as Learning Management System, LMS. The third chunk is dealing with learner support and communicating to the learners clearly that will help them navigate through the course, complete activities, and providing feedback, how they will access your feedback. And then finally, looking at some of the access to services that will help them further, whether it's tech support or course policies, and so on. So what we're going to do now for the next 20-ish minutes is simply walk through a course that I have in Canvas. And this is my History of Rock and Roll course that we'll look at. I've been teaching the course since 2013. It's gone through countless revisions. It started out in Blackboard, eventually moved to Canvas. And a lot of what you'll see is based on what I have learned over time, looking at the rubric, looking at the updated rubrics, the different versions that have happened over the years, interacting with colleagues and instructors statewide. I've just gained a lot more over time. So hopefully what I present will be helpful. Keep in mind that it is a specific music appreciation style course, but the principles work across different fields, the sciences, humanities, arts. So I think it'll be beneficial for everyone. Okay, so let me go to the course. So what you should be seeing now is the home page. And what we're going to do is just walk through each of the sections in the rubric in order, and keep an eye out for how items are placed, some of the text and the way things are communicated, the way things are titled, and the way things are laid out in the different pages and activities, assignments, I should say. And also keep in mind that this is on a basic level. You're never expected to be a web designer or a programmer to be able to accomplish these with courses. And again, looking at this from the eye of whether you are an instructor looking to improve your course and or a reviewer looking to improve your skills on reviewing other courses. So the first section is dealing with objectives. The first thing to note, and in the spirit of backward design, is that objectives is essentially the end goal that students should be able to accomplish after they've completed your course. And every course has its course outline of record, and you can find those official objectives from the local curriculum committees, but you do have these objectives that essentially align to those in the course outline of record, but are even more specific to what students will be doing in each of the sections in your course. So what you're looking for here, and what we make the habit of doing, is looking at what's aligned, because that is the point to work towards. Additional exemplary elements are exactly that. They are above and beyond. Many times exemplary points are very beneficial. So keep that in mind. But at least the first thing you want to work towards is moving towards aligned. So let's take a look at these, all right? We have the placement, clarity, and alignment of objectives. Placement is essentially that the objectives are positioned somewhere in your course that students can easily access. They can see it, they know how to get to those, and then that moves into clarity. Once they are able to access the objectives, they understand what they're supposed to be doing. and they know how to demonstrate that they have met the objective. And then the alignment deals with more in general, right? Let me say that if you are reviewing a course and you are not a subject matter expert in the course you're reviewing, you can still provide good feedback for A3, because what you're looking at is the course and that it makes sense through the perspective of the student who is coming in to first learn the course. So it aligns in the sense that every item, if a module is on a certain topic, assignments in it, discussions in that module are not in left field, so to speak, but it does make sense that students are getting what they will expect to get out of that particular module. So what I'm going to do here to just look at placement of objectives and clarity and alignment is go to the modules area. And later on, we'll talk more about the module structure itself. But the first place that I have included any type of objective is in an orientation module. I have a course outline. And this is simply stating the course objectives that are from the course outline of record. So at the very least, students, when they're going through this orientation module, they know they have that information in front of them. Now, but where it really aligns to the rubric is in the actual learning modules themselves. So if I take a look at the first module I have here, and I start every module with an overview, what you'll see here is in this module, what will students expect to do in the course? And the important thing to look at here is that they are started with demonstrable verbs, basically. That makes sense. They will be exploring these sections in early American music. They will be completing analyses. They will be participating in a discussion. So you're looking for those elements to be clear and at the beginning of a learning unit. Also, so of course I can next through the module, but I'll go ahead and go back to modules, and I will skip down a bit to an assignment. So in this case, I have a project here. And this is an assignment, and in Canvas, this is where not only you can present content, but your students are able to upload or submit some kind of activity that you can then grade. And within each assignment itself, the objective is also provided. Now in this case, my objective here just happens to be exactly one of the objectives from the course outline of record, but that's because for this particular course, the curriculum committee did a good job of making them clear, making them in language that students can understand, not overly over the top, but just concise and clear. And that is directly within the assignment. Okay. And looking at alignment, right, you can really take a look at just the module itself, just the overview. And as things are titled, you see that it makes sense. You're not really seeing any items that are not really related to this first section in the course. All right, let's move on to the next section. And let's also take a second here to see if there's any questions that have come up in chat.
There was just one question from either Tamara or Tamara, I'm not sure how she pronounces it, about how you don't have headers in the module saying readings, assignments, etc. And I had just responded that that's kind of a personal design decision, not anything that's required by the rubric itself, but I don't know if you want to add anything about it. And Thelma, I will put the link in the chat again. And Nicole is asking if your modules are in weeks or units. And then Janali wants to see the orientation module again, which Sean had said he'll come back to.
Okay, all right, perfect. So yes, all of that, those questions then are really in the next section. So we're good to move on.
Perfect.
So let me just say immediately that what Helen said, that is accurate. The titles, let me see, I go to the plus button. The text headers, that is an option that, that is available. In this case, for my course, I rely on the names themselves of each of the items and some of the indentation to just see how items align to previous pages that lead up to it. So it is an option for you. Okay, so A4 through A8. Okay, now course navigation. This, and I think Helen and Cheryl would agree, and many of you out there that are involved in a lot of course reviews, this is a big section. There's a lot to this. This statement, navigation and content flow are easily determined by whoever is taking the course. That's huge, right? So these items, unit level chunking, page level chunking, how you're using the tools like discussions and different things, they are part of course navigation, or let me say closely related to, and the use of multimedia. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit here. But these items is really the heart and soul of the design of the course itself. So first of all, let me start from the beginning in the modules area itself. A course that has good navigation, I'll come back to the home page, but let's just look at this module section. A course that can be easily navigated, right away you can see that modules are clearly labeled, topics are presented. Sometimes you'll see courses that'll say week 1, week 2, week 3. What we really want is some clarity. Like if that week 1 is really dealing with a particular topic, go ahead and identify the topic. And then from there, within the module itself, all right, again, the items are presented in a way that makes a logical sense in terms of the flow, right? So that flow is specifically referred to in the rubric to say, I'm starting out with an overview of the precursors of rock and roll. And then I'm getting into specific sections. And then now I have a critical listening. And then I have this quiz that is not just named quiz 1, but it's more specific to the course itself. It's a listening analysis. That's essentially what it is. And then I move on to the next items. Okay. And then as you go in through, you have this overview. You move into content. And I'll come back to some of these items and look at it more in depth. And you move to a critical listening page, and that's exactly what they get. They have embedded audio that they make reference to. Then they move to the quiz, all right? So when you see a module structure that is clearly labeled, you're really well on your way to having good course navigation, all right? Now, let me go back to the home page. And the home page is also another key point of good course navigation. And it's twofold. The first is what's actually in the content area here, and also what is available in the course navigation menu. All right, so if I move to student view, then I will see that this is what the students see. So one thing to look for with good course navigation is that it's concise and participants only see what they need to see, and the navigation makes sense. So they can always access home base, then they can access any announcements if you have any, and then basically the modules, right? Because discussions, assignments, quizzes, they're all organized in a way that is contextualized. So this, it's not just a list of all the quizzes for the course, but it's a quiz that is associated with this module, with this topic. And then of course they can always access grades and the syllabus here. So the content itself for the home page, and this is a home page that I start out with at the beginning of the course. It has a welcome message and a welcome video. And of course, this is adding multimedia, really humanizing your course, having your presence in the course. This is something that, although technically it's not required, it is something that really helps for the overall course presentation. So you have the welcome message, and then you have how to get started. In this case here, I've added a button, which is essentially a link, or you could guide learners to say, okay, just click on the modules link and find the Start Here section. Okay, and then this is extra, but it's nice to see what they'll be doing and the dates that they will be working through your course. Okay, so that's just the basic idea of a good welcoming home page. And then from there, they can go ahead and begin navigating the course. All right. Now, another thing that I like to do is change out the home pages. So I have 5 home pages that coincide with these 5 sections. And I'll give you a backstory. I ended up consolidating my course into 5 modules, 5 areas, because it is based on the chronological order, a historical recount. But I had to teach the course in the summer, and we were teaching at the time 5-week accelerated versions of the course. So I was used to the typical 18-week semester, but the content still all needed to be there. So I went ahead and consolidated, well, let me not use the word consolidated. I reorganized it so that the 5 sections could be worked through in an accelerated form across 5 weeks. And then across 18 weeks, they would have more time to complete all the activities per module. So in something like an 18-week semester, they'll be working in module 1 for, say, 3 weeks, module 2 for 3 weeks, maybe another one, a shorter one for 2 weeks. And I just make sure to let them know ahead of time those date ranges. So that was a real reason for providing this for students. So it was a way to strategize and meet a lot of goals for how I was going to structure my course. Now, this is all right, course navigation, and I've already mentioned the unit level chunking, right? Content is meaningfully segmented into those modules, right? So as you saw in the modules area, everything is titled as needed, and I've said it already, so I don't need to repeat that issue. Now let's take a look further in at the page level chunking. And this is looking within content areas. So although A6 is titled page level chunking, you're also looking for this element in assignments and discussions and quizzes, because anywhere where you can add content, you want the content to be presented in a way that is chunked. Visually, people can see clear headings. If you have images and multimedia, it is structured in a way that it's not cluttered, okay, but there's plenty of space. And of course, Canvas, just using the rich content editor in a basic form, you can really have that element work for you without having to do anything with HTML or any kind of design. So let's go back to this first page. Okay, this is an example that I think really helps to clarify some things. This section on African roots, minstrelsy, jazz, and blues, it's a big section. It's really the kickoff to the course, and there's a lot of content here. So what I had to do was make sure that the content was chunked accordingly so that students could clearly see different sections without being overwhelmed and without feeling like there's clutter. So in this case, I just happened to put some design here and add a module 1 heading to say, you know, you are in module 1, right? And then moving on to the next level heading, you see the different sections. And then you have, in this case, the curriculum / textbook is what I have here in each page, okay? You might have a link to an OER resource, or you might have something on information on like what to read in the textbook, but it's always good to have some text that is at least introducing each section. So I move on to a section on minstrelsy and ragtime. Okay, now these headings, I'll go back and talk about that in a bit, but they are accessible, and it's very, it's a 1, 2, 3 process to get that done. Okay, and then videos are embedded, so there's some multimedia. Items are, or let me say, in front of each video, it tells you to actually watch the video. Sometimes this might be confused for an image, okay? And images, right? I've used some of the right justify to get these images in different areas, but if you want to keep it simple, right, you could keep those images just aligned vertically, okay? And as they move through, it's not overwhelming, okay? Or at least if I do say so myself. But let me say that because this is, and especially for some of you that have been doing reviews, there's this issue of, okay, is there too much scrolling, right? So this idea, okay, for a course to be aligned, there can't be too much scrolling. Well, if you look at it in the sense of, is it, does it have enough space and are things chunked out properly? And if people can see from the section above the fold that it's already presenting headings, then they have a sense that, okay, this is easy to navigate, okay? And the other thing is, as culture shifts and people get more used to working, especially on mobile devices, they're more in the habit of just scrolling through. If you've ever read an article, a news article on your mobile phone, there's no problems with scrolling through and gaining the content. So you don't have to feel like a course has to be so chunked, right? Sometimes, you know, not all my pages are like this. This is just the longest one, okay? But this way, right, the content is really meeting that A6 requirement, okay? Now, media, course management tools, all right? The media itself, all right? let me go in and just get out of student view. All right. These items are embedded, right? So video I've put in YouTube, I've gone and just hit the space, and then I use the record or upload media function, right? Or actually in this case, it's different. It's the insert edit media button. Okay, and I simply get the embed code from YouTube and I bring it in like that, right? So those items are there, they're present, okay, and you're providing a variety of ways to communicate. It's not just text, all right? So for A8, you definitely want to see some evidence of use of different multimedia in the course. And then the management tools, what we're really talking about there is just simply using what's available in terms of creating assignments and quizzes and discussions, and also rubrics, right? Because Canvas does have an excellent rubric tool. Okay, let me make sure that I hit on the points I wanted to there. And just again, quickly, if there's any more questions that have come up, because I know that's a big part of section A.
There have been a number of questions. Cheryl and I have been furiously attempting to answer them. And I think it would take too much of your time to try to go back and find one that hasn't been answered. So what I would recommend is when you have the Q&A, just ask someone to ask again if we didn't get to it.
Okay, and then I just see very quickly that someone asked if it was an OER class. So this one, my buttons are popping as I say. I wrote it myself, so I'm proud of it. And but I do teach another music appreciation class that I did retrieve that information from OER. So if the license allows you, you can just take that raw text and copy and paste and format it as you like, edit it as you like. You know, I can't get into all of that, but you know, that is a great option that really helps to serve building out courses. Okay. All right, so A9 through 11, okay? Instructions is a big one, okay? What is aligned, right? Items in your online course should have clear instructions when students are expected to actually do something, right? So let me just move now to an assignment, and I'll move down to another module here. Let's go to project 2. All right, so instructions. I always like to start with the specific objective and then just a brief overview, what you'll be doing in the assignment, and then instructions. Now, one thing I like to do is, in this case, use bullet points. So sometimes you might see a paragraph, and I used to do that before, where you know, recruit someone to interview and come up with 5 to 7 open-ended questions, comma, and you know, but then as you break it up, that's another way to really chunk out the information so that the instructions are even clearer, and it's quantitative. In this case, I mean, I just like the style of buttons, but you could number it, right? Say, okay, I got 3 things I got to do, right? That really helps those students who actually appreciate that, okay? And then in this case, I went a little bit further and said, okay, you know, you do have 3 options for presentations. So in the spirit of universal design for learning, they have multiple means of how they can present their information. If they choose to record a video, right? And then I just give some basic information on how they can do that, but I leave a lot of that to them to decide how they want to do it. If they want to do just the traditional writing, Okay, in this case, I had them, they could write a transcript of this interview. So the instructions are clear. It starts with the objective, the headings are there. And then another way to have clear instructions is how it will be graded, right? So it's nice to have, and in your courses, see a section where grading, right? Or feedback, if you want to call it feedback. And you let them know how it will be graded. In this case, it'll follow the rubric. And a statement basically saying when, right, it'll be graded. It will be graded within, you know, this particular time frame. So whatever you see in a course that just really clarifies for students, then, you know, you're knocking it out of the park. Excuse all my baseball references, but they are aligning to good, clear instructions, okay? Learning support, again, if there's any points where students can really gain from any additional resources, it's nice to always see in a course, just put a heading in and say, you know, and if you have some links, you know, review the following items, right? And that way, again, it's really, it's all about giving the students the best possible experience in their online course, okay? And then learner feedback. This is, A11 is just simply providing somewhere, you know, most likely at the, well, yes, at the end of the course, a participant feedback, anonymous survey. It's just, you know, in fact, this one I just sort of created, you know, right before this webinar, that just has a basic statement, you know, provide any feedback that will help improve the course. Note that it's anonymous, right? And you could add more criteria if you want, but, you know, it's always good to have that element in there. You can also have it somewhere halfway through the course. I've worked with instructors that have it after each module, right? And students have that option. They have that opportunity, okay? Okay. And then finally, these are other, you know, I don't mean to ever degrade any of these elements. It's more just check the box items. They're important, right? But they are items that you just simply look at a course and say it's there, it's provided for students, and they can access it easily, right? They're easily found. So course policies, student services, tech support, all right? A lot of that can be in the orientation module, okay? So in this case, links to student services, right? Well, in this case, this is could probably be fleshed out a little bit more, but you have your page where they know where to access things. They have the college website. Now, in this case, tech support, in my case, is in the course navigation section. No, I'm sorry, it's somewhere else. I think it's in the Canvas navigation. Yeah. So I simply have a statement saying, if you need tech support, you know, I can help you with that. Now, if I needed to refer them to others that had tech support, I might have a series of links that could provide them that they could access, okay? But in this case, the first thing they're looking at from the beginning, start here, right away, they're seeing that they can access that tech support. And of course, I've included the great Canvas overview video that Instructure itself has provided. All right, so that's those are all the elements. Let me just say one more thing. If any of these policy points or student services or tech support points can be added to where they're needed most, this is one area where an exemplary element can be something that you can be mindful of to add to your course and provide as a recommendation if you're doing a review for someone else. Okay, so that is section A, and I think this is good timing. So let's go to open up for questions. Let's start with any other questions that may have been in the chat, and then maybe open up for maybe by a raise of hands.
That's what I was just going to recommend, is if you've got a question, go to the participant control in Zoom and raise your hand so that Sean knows who to call on. Otherwise, if we have people start unmuting, it's going to turn into pandemonium. There are a number of questions in chat. Why don't you call on somebody and then maybe let me read a question and then you can call on somebody else and we'll try to alternate?
That works.
Okay.
And this should come up in order. Okay, yes it is. Okay, yes, go ahead, Helen. Or do you want me to?
Yeah, why don't you do one first? So go ahead and do Sanita and then I'll find one.
Sanhita, go ahead and unmute yourself and shoot.
What kind of tech support issues do you face?
Well, at this point, I don't. So I think I've tried to, and again, over the years, just really make things as simple as possible. So that's really up to what people are dealing with individually. Sometimes there's issues with, you know, a student might say, you know, well, this file is not uploading to the assignment that you asked us to do. So I do keep the file types open so that they could upload a PDF or a Word document, right? So I just try to really keep that where students have options on how they're going to do that. So that's just one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm just hesitant to say, come to me for tech support because I'm really unsavvy, tech unsavvy. So
yeah, and let me talk to that, speak to that is, you know, really keep your course, if there's anything you can do to simplify so that's more manageable for you as the instructor, you know, that like sort of make yourself as the priority in that sense, you know.
I get it. Thank you.
Yes.
One real quick question from Margaret saying, your banners are great. Are they done in Canva? I would have said yes, but I figured you should probably answer, Sean, since maybe you didn't do them in Canva.
So the reason I actually started in Canva and then I moved to Illustrator because I actually, you know, through my job, I had access to it for free. And Illustrator, I was able to just get a sharper image. That's it. But you can do some great stuff. I can do this banner in Canva.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then Emily asked a question about, and she may need to unmute and clarify a little bit, but her question is, how does it work when you simply want students to read a chapter, then do an exercise? And I'm not exactly sure what she's asking. Maybe you have an idea, Sean, or Emily, maybe you can unmute and tell us more about what you are trying to find out.
Yeah, Emily.
Okay, hi. Basically, I have never taught online before, and I've never taken an online class. So, you know, I am familiar with, you know, planning a class with a syllabus that I'm going to hand out as a PDF, you know, or printed, you know, here it is, you know, and they can check off all the things and then, you know, but the idea of figuring out how to design sort of lesson plans, you know, that balance things like, you know, go read your chapter, you know, and then here's a homework assignment. You know, I'm just a little unclear about how that might look rather than having stuff that is embedded or OER. I have never found any useful OER for religious studies. So, you know,
Right.
I'm just curious, you know, do we just say, go read this book and then put in an assignment?
So the way I look at it is, I mean, I have these pages here that have a lot of content, but the basic structure of it is, and if you're looking at the screen here, if I'm just starting from the beginning, right, you know, I want to have whatever, whatever that is. And then the way I look at it is, you always have some kind of overview statement, because again, that's providing clear instructions and clear navigation for your students. And then you sort of have like the thing to do for them. So, however you want to name that, the activity, right? Oh, and then even before that, what are you trying to accomplish here? The objective, right? So I just start with something like that. And, whatever this item is for the objective, whatever you're trying to meet, the overview, I see it as, if you're in a face-to-face situation, I would guess that you typically start with some kind of beginning, good morning class. Today we're going to look at, and you'll maybe take a few minutes to introduce that. You could provide text, right? Maybe just a small paragraph. Maybe if you even want to, if you're also teaching face-to-face, like record yourself or record your audio, and you could provide that in here as well and embed that media. And then the activity would be, it's always good to provide context, okay, to gain insights, to gain an overview of, XYZ. Read in your text, right? Pages.
Okay, I see. This is very helpful. So basically, I am just doing what I did before. I am just figuring out where it plugs into an online assignment or link to a video when I have that, and yeah, I can just say, go read this chapter and then come do this, right? With the relevant, overview, intro stuff, which I would normally just give in class, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, yeah.
And this can also be, if you say, well, right away, they're gonna do an activity on it, that they're gonna submit something, I'll just skip the page itself and just put this in the assignment directly.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sean, can I share really fast? So somebody else asked about the template in the Commons. And I think you might, Emily, find it a little bit visual. In this one, we give the orientation module, like what you might want to have in, just a suggestion. But down here, we lay out the module structure. So exactly as Sean said, overview, objectives, resources. Then when you're presenting your materials, you are going to do reading media and then your lecture or knowledge building. And then what kind of practice do you want to have them do with a summary and then maybe an assessment. So that kind of lays that out, and I'll put the link back in the chat.
Awesome, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And Sean, Tamara is next with a question. So do you want to unmute yourself?
Go ahead, Tamara.
Hi, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it, and I know everybody here does too. I have a question about your module. If you could show like your first module again, you have it open up with pages, right? And you do like the overview, and then underneath it you have all of your different types of assignments, right?
Yes.
But I saw in one of the modules you had the rubric at the bottom, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't a pages overview module, if it was just like the rubric was at the bottom of an assignment page, because I got confused there. So if you could show that.
Yeah, so I'll go back to that project.
Thank you.
And at the bottom there, you do see the rubric.
I'm not seeing your screen, Sean.
Ah, let me share my screen. All right, so there's the assignment. Okay, my scroller all of a sudden stopped working. Ha, come on now.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so there we go. All right. So the way to add the rubric to an assignment, right? If I were to just go and create a new assignment, all right, then I title it here. There's my rich content editor. So I put all the instructions and whatnot, add the points and how they're going to submit it. And then once that's all established, okay, so for now, I'll just say test, and I go ahead and save it. Now I have this add rubric button. Okay, so once you do that, then you are able to name it. And then you have this starting point where you can provide the description and then start adding ratings. You just hit the plus button, right? And whatever language you're going to use. And then you begin building your rubric, okay? And, you know, go and check out the guides, the Canvas guides on how to build a rubric. And then you just simply say, I'll use this rubric assignment for grading, check that box. Once you create the rubric, then it'll automatically attach to the assignment, and then students will be able to see it.
And the confusing thing in Canvas is, as Sean showed you, for assignments, it's right below the assignment. For discussions, you have to get the rubric a different way. So again, the guides are probably going to be your best bet to get that distinction between the two.
Thank you
And
both. Yeah, I know how to do the discussion rubric, but I wasn't quite sure how the assignment rubric worked. And it only shows up on the page that you have the assignment, and only shows up on the page where you have the discussion board. You can't
Correct.
put that rubric anywhere else, right?
Yes, you can.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can?
You can. Yeah.
Once you create a rubric, you can attach that rubric to other parts, to other assignments.
And even other courses.
Yeah.
And again,
That's
we
right.
can't go into it right now because it's outside of what Sean wants to talk about. But if you go to the guides, it'll show you how to find a rubric. That's the search word you're going to want to do is Canvas find a rubric.
Great. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
And Jenna had a question, or other people too may as well. Sean, at one point you were talking about instructions with A9, but then you also went into an assignment and we're talking about instructions there, which in the rubric is technically C6. And so we just wanted to, for people that were maybe thinking there was confusion there, it is actually called out separately in the OEI Course Design Rubric. The A9 instructions that Sean was talking about are for content. So if you've got a video or an article or a website or something you want students to consume, just as you would in a face-to-face class, you would give them a little bit of context about, here's what the video is about, here's what I want you paying attention to, here's when you're going to need this information, etc. But then separate from that is the assessment instructions. And so that's why A9 is what Sean was talking about with content, but we also have a separate C9 around assessment instructions, and I'll be talking about that when I cover section C in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
But instructions everywhere is basically what you want to remember.
Yeah, hopefully that clarifies.
Going back to the raised hands, it looks like Tad is next.
Okay, Tad.
Hi, I just have a simple question: how to create buttons? And then a bigger question is, how do you strike the balance between having a lot of clarity and streamlining the information for students to see exactly what is due, say, in a particular module, versus some students who may use that as a means to avoid, I'll just say, rushing through assignments, and they just get the work done really fast, rather than to, if the instructor want things to sink in a little bit. And I know that's a kind of a bigger question.
It is, yeah. So are you, let me just clarifying question. Are you talking about, like, how can you set it up in a way that they're actually going through the content before they attempt to just go and do the assignments? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's great to have like you know, a listing of an overview. Okay, in this module we're doing, say, these 6 assignments, but and I know some students will go through, like you showed us. Okay, listen to these things for your music appreciation. Read this, but if there's a minority of students who just, okay, what's due this week? Boom, boom, boom. And they you know, they work backwards, so to speak. What's the best way to get students to read all the content, as opposed to, okay, what do I need to answer this? Okay, I'll look at that, but I might not look at the other stuff.
Well, man, that is the $1,000,000 question. I feel like working backwards, the assignments, they should be able to accomplish, like in this case, they're going to go and do this listening analysis and they're going to earn 3 points for it. But, they go in and preview it. They need to listen to these recordings and answer the questions. And these are more formative in my case here. So I give them 3 attempts and it all self-grades. But if they are struggling with this, then they say, hold on, where am I missing this information? So let me go previous, right? There's some more recordings, but then let me go back again. Oh, and here's where I have a video where where I specifically talk about the recordings they're going to listen to in that quiz. So for me, I say, okay, fine. If you want to work backwards, that's okay with me. I'm providing you the resources. And if at the end, you're completing the assignments and you're doing a good job, then however way you want to navigate the course, that's up to you. But the course is structured in a way that, you can move through it sequentially. So I don't really try to just say, you have to follow it in this order. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Could you just use prerequisites?
Yes, I was just going to say you can use prerequisites, but also you can hide the assignments or discussions from the navigation, which they were talking about in chat, yes or no. But it depends on if it's really important and you want them to go through one page before the next. But otherwise, like Sean said, as long as it's in a structure and you don't limit the way that they go through it, 6 to 1, half a dozen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, great. It looks like most things in chat are being taken care of. So if you, before we have 2 minutes, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk about other webinars like Autumn had asked you to do, or anything, if you have any closing remarks before we end at 2 o'clock.
So let's see, my screen is sharing. Okay, so yeah, let's go with the questions. Amy.
Yeah.
And then after that, Warren. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about.
Well, but we only have 2 minutes, so you may not get to all of that in time.
It's very quick.
Yes.
I'd love to see your syllabus, the syllabus tool that you use.
Let's see. Do I have the syllabus in here? Well, actually, in this case, I brought in a document. And I like for them to have the option of previewing the document. And it is accessible. So that's, and I do like to add a little bit of style to it, but that's what I do. So if
But
I was
Amy, that is in the syllabus tool of Canvas. So if you open up the syllabus tool, he put it on the top. That was the confusion.
No,
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. And then Warren.
Yes, thank you. My question is, what I've been seeing is how you would design your course if you're going to teach it asynchronously. I was wondering if you were going to do anything with respect to synchronous online.
So in this case, in the communication area, I provide them with a virtual office hours time. And then I have a link for them to click on to confer Zoom. And I'm just on there on Fridays from 1 to 2. So,
All right, so you just set a certain amount of time during the week. Would you consider a course where you'd spend your entire 3 hours synchronously?
So the rubric itself is actually designed to evaluate asynchronous courses.
Yes, only.
But
And that's mostly what happens in our system, Warren, although things, colleges are changing to some degree with now the new push where everybody's going online. But generally speaking, a fully online course in the California Community College system is asynchronous.
I know, I understand that, but mid-semester, we got switched from face-to-face to remote. And in remote, we were synchronous. At least I was synchronous for the entire second half of the semester. Worked out beautifully. I loved it. It was a great experience for me. And I feel more attraction to that than to go totally asynchronous.
right. And so what you would do then is just, you know, you can set up your modules, very basic module structure or maybe just like provide a link for them. Well, I would recommend still using the modules and then adding that Zoom link in context of what you'll be talking about for the day. You know, even if it's just taking.
And that's basically what I do. I use exactly what you've outlined here, except that I do a live lecture, and then I put them all in breakout rooms, and then I give them an assignment to do, and I keep jumping around from room to room to room to room for the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's it. So. Okay, so everyone, we now it's time to say goodbye, but next Friday we have Helen. You can join Helen here. Well, it'll have its specific registration link. Same time though, Friday 1 to 2, and she'll go over section B. And then Cheryl will be there the following Friday, June 5.
No, I'll be doing both B and C. Cheryl's doing D.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you'll have Helen, and then on the following Friday, and then Cheryl will be on Friday the 12th, talking about all things accessibility. So we do have resources available. So do you know, Helen or Cheryl, if this slide deck, if that's going to actually be in the CVC resource?
I don't think there would be any reason to, since most of your presentation was in Canvas, but and really the recording is going to be the most useful thing. But
and I believe that'll be in the.
yeah,
in the
that'll be on the Autumn put it in earlier. Let me go find it again. It'll be on the CVC OEI resources page. And let me get that link and put it in there. It will probably be there by next Monday or Tuesday, maybe.
Yeah, a couple of days. We'll send it in to get captioned. So it takes usually at the most 4 days to get it captioned. And then we'll post it at cvc.edu/resources, and we'll also post it in the @ONE YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And hopefully we'll see you around. And I wish you all the best. Finish your semester strong and stay positive to summer and fall coming up. So everybody take care.
Bye-bye.